Will this man fight for his rights after the death of his wife and the loss of custody of his child, or will he give up?
Hello, and welcome to our channel. Get a chance to be featured in our future videos by suggesting underrated movies you want us to recap. So today we'll recap and review a drama movie titled The Art of Racing in the Rain. Let's check it out.
The film begins in Seattle, where we see an old golden retriever lying on the floor, barely moving, and reflecting on his life on Earth. His name is Enzo. He is waiting for Denny, his owner and best friend, who calls his name as he enters the hallway. When Denny realizes that his dog is dying, he gently carries him onto the couch and cuddles him while watching TV. Enzo expresses his desire to be a human, even if it means forgetting his memories of Denny, because he said he'll remember him the moment their hands touch.
The way Denny carries him demonstrates how much he treasures his best friend, assuring him that he'll always be there for him no matter what happens. After all, Enzo is his closest friend on the planet.
Enzo recalls meeting Denny. It was somewhere in a nice quiet barn. Denny was looking at the puppies when he noticed one in particular, the puppy who will change his life forever. After a while, Enzo could be seen in the back of Denny's car, driving away from what was once his home. Enzo squealed, expressing his delight at being chosen by Denny. They arrived at Denny's workplace and introduced Enzo to his coworkers. One even told him he had to take care of a puppy, and the other asked if he was going to the concert tonight. Denny declined, stating that he needed to be home with Enzo. During weekends, Denny teaches driving or even takes racing gigs. His boss is proud of him and thinks highly of him. He helps him get gigs as a GT race car driver. Despite Denny being busy juggling between jobs, he and Enzo are inseparable. He always brings Enzo with him whenever he can. Enzo is seen jogging around town with him, watching TV together on the couch in the living room, and even during his racing competition, looking proudly at Denny. Denny also claims that Enzo is a racer at heart.
Enzo acknowledges this while claiming unconditional love for his best friend. The relationship shows that a dog is indeed a man's best friend.
After a year, the two are content with their relationship. Denny met Eve while they were both out grocery shopping. Enzo senses Denny's interest in Eve and runs in the opposite direction to get his attention, but Denny manages to bring him back. He invites Eve to his friend's concert, joking that they are Seattle's third best Soundgarden cover band. Eve gladly agrees. They start dating and quickly fell in love. Eve is very supportive of Denny, but Enzo is jealous of her because he believes she is stealing Denny away from him.
He despised this lovely, cheerful young lady, but he tolerates her because he understands Eve's importance to his best friend. Seeing a dog get jealous because of a girl is pretty adorable.
The couple married soon after. Enzo was overjoyed to be the ring bearer at the wedding. At the reception, Enzo notices Eve's parents, whom he called the twins, and listened to them complain about Denny because he doesn't make much money and is often not at home. Denny is very good at what he does, but admits that not every race ends in victory. Eve eventually becomes pregnant, and both of them are delighted by the news. However, that means Denny will also have to race more and be away from home more in preparation for the upcoming child. Enzo lowers his defenses and becomes more accepting of Eve as they spend more time together. One night, she made him rest his chin on her belly, and Enzo felt the baby kick. He was startled but calmed by her, so he rested his chin on her belly again as she caresses his head.
He admits that he's envious about her ability to carry a baby in her tummy and wishes that the baby looks like him when it's born. That would be weird, Enzo.
Denny was asked to compete in Daytona, but he turned it down because Eve was getting close to giving birth. However, when he spoke with Eve, she told him he should accept the offer because her due date was still 2 weeks away. So he leaves, promising to return in time for the birth of their child.
The way Eve supports her husband's dream, even if that means being away from him for quite some time, just shows how lucky Denny is to have such a supportive wife.
That promise was not fulfilled because Denny was still at the racetrack competing in Daytona as Eve gave birth to their baby girl. While Eve is in labor, Enzo watches Denny's race on television. She named their child Zoe. Eve invites Enzo to come over as she comfortably holds Zoe in bed. Rushing to her side, Enzo praised the baby and said she was unlike anything he had ever seen. However, he dislikes one of her gifts, a stuffed zebra. Denny returns home and apologizes for not being present. Eve assures Enzo that everything is fine and that it's okay that he wasn't there. He tells her that he raced well, but was replaced by a rookie driver who crashed just before the finish. Despite his strong performance in the race, his team's failure to even finish means that Formula One will not hire him. The family grows closer and more loving over time. As Zoe grows older, Eve works as a teacher, and Enzo enjoys spending time with his family. Soon, Eve suffers from a severe headache. Enzo claims to be able to smell cancer in her brain. She smells like rotting wood to him, but he can't tell them because he's just a dog who knows how to bark. Later, Eve becomes ill while Denny is away. She vomited into the kitchen sink. She rushes out with Zoe, leaving Enzo alone. Enzo quickly runs out of food and has no other option left but to drink on the toilet. He occasionally finds Cheerios and yogurt Zoe has dropped on the floor and eats them. Enzo claimed to be hallucinating one night during a thunderstorm. He witnesses Zoe's evil zebra ripping another stuffed animal apart, and then the zebra rips out its own stuffing. He had never felt afraid in his life until that night.
Food deprivation would result in hallucinations. It must be awful for Enzo that Eve left him all alone without leaving any food for him or water for a few days.
Denny returns home after a few days and discovers Enzo has been abandoned without food or water. He feeds him and then calls Eve, asking her to come home. When they did, Zoe found that all her stuffed animals and toys had been ripped apart, upsetting her. Denny scolds and yells at Enzo, calling him a stupid dog. Eve tells him to stop punishing the dog. Denny finds Enzo in the yard and apologizes. Eve and Enzo went for a hike in the woods. While they were walking, Enzo noticed that Eve appeared out of breath and pale. She keeps assuring Enzo that she is fine. He looks at her, concerned, and told her through his eyes that he knew. Eve collapses and Enzo barks until help arrives. Eve remains in the hospital while she is being treated. Denny looks after Zoe and leaves Enzo under his friend's care. After she was discharged, Eve's parents decided that she should live with them. Denny and Zoe spend time with her as her condition worsens. One night, Enzo visits Eve. She admits to him that she is no longer afraid. He looks in her eyes with sadness and she acknowledges that he knows what is happening. She understands that her life on Earth may end, but there is more to it in the afterlife. Enzo claims to have witnessed her final breath and soul leaving her body. Soon after the funeral, Denny's in-laws confront him. They want Zoe and have threatened to sue him. Eve's father finally tells Denny what he thinks, and Denny tells Zoe that they're leaving and grabs her belongings. He grabs Denny's arm. Denny yanks away from it and he falls, breaking a rib. Eve's mother saw what had happened. Denny and Zoe ultimately decide to leave. Denny hires a lawyer friend who tells him not to worry about losing Zoe. Denny, on the other hand, was arrested for assault at work. Eve's father lies about what happened, claiming that Denny is the attacker. Denny's attorney informs him that if he's convicted, he may never see his daughter again and that she will be cared for by her grandparents for the next 90 days. As a result, he is unable to contact or see her. This bothers Enzo as well.
Eve's parents seized the chance to snatch Zoe from Denny even after their child passed away. They didn't even consider how Eve would feel about what they did if she were still alive.
During this time, Denny is offered a job with Ferrari in Italy. He tells them he cannot leave the state or accept a job because he is dealing with personal issues. The man hands him a business card and tells him that he understands and that if anything changes, he could call him. 90 days have passed. Denny is at a loss for words but vows to fight. Denny goes running with Enzo one night, but Enzo, who is now older, struggles to keep up. He attempts to follow Denny across the street, but is hit by a car. Denny rushes him to a veterinary clinic where the vet tells him Enzo is extremely lucky. A few weeks later, Enzo is feeling well and is getting better. He notices Denny is about to agree to a lousy custody agreement. Just in time, Enzo grabs the legal document and rips it apart. Denny recognizes Enzo's message and decides to oppose it. It was revealed through a brief flashback to the court proceedings that Eve's mother started to lie on the stand and claim she saw Denny push her husband to the ground. She is dismissed as a witness but can't bring herself to do so. Finally, she confesses and the charges are dropped. Denny wins the case and gains full custody of his daughter.
Denny calls the Ferrari representative and accepts the position. His new boss is overjoyed, and Enzo is delighted to be moving to Italy.
The scene goes back to the film's opening scene, but this time it reveals what happened after they watched TV. Denny drives Zoe and Enzo to the racetrack where he once taught. His former boss allows him to drive Enzo onto the track. Enzo discusses everything he has learned and how he is certain he will be a human in the next life. He expresses regret that he will not be able to travel to Italy, but believes Denny will become a great Formula One driver. Denny accelerates further and Enzo barks to indicate he wants one more lap. Denny and Zoe are living in Italy 8 years later. In a full racing attire, Denny is introduced to a man and a boy. The father says his son is a big fan of his. He wanted to know if Denny would sign the boy's autograph. Denny agrees and inquires about the boy's name. He introduces himself as Enzo. Denny smiles and tells his father that the boy reminds him of an old friend. Denny expresses gratitude to the father and son, but before they leave, he stops them and gives the father his phone number. He tells him that he will train his son when he is ready. As he puts on his helmet and enters the car, the boy smiled at him.
This movie shows how spending time with loved ones is important. Even if Denny lost his wife and best friend, he knows that they're there to guide him and cheer him on. So watch this film if you're looking for a loving, kid-friendly movie. Please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload. Also, don't forget to suggest movies that you want us to recap in the future in the comments down below.